A lot of Europeans like picking them when they're smaller button heads. I picked those already. Hey, Storm. This is what you call the honey mushroom. I cut it nice and meaty, nice and white, no worms. Perfect for picking. Well, I look at it has like a little velvet on top. And if you smell it, it has a distinct smell to it, like a musty smell.
Oh yeah.
And then when you cook that, it's like when you cut it in pieces and stems, makes an awesome gravy. When I'm looking at it, when I cut it, I want the stem to be nice and white. This way here, there's no worms in it. I'm like a mushroom will grow an inch to inch and a half a day, and it doesn't take too long before they spoil. In the white meat, you'll see like yellow markings or black. You keep cutting because it might only go so far up the stem. And if it goes all the way up the stem, you cut the hat. And when you cut the hat, you open it up. If it's nice and white, it's good. But if you see lines going through it, it's full of worms. Oh, when they're big like this, beautiful for drying, for soups, stew. The trick is, let's see if they're nice and white. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. And you could put this in a dehydrator, or like the old people used to do, the Europeans. Sewing line needle, and they hang it over their wood stoves, and slowly it'll dry out. And this way here, it preserves it longer. The Europeans, you make borscht or whatever, or your chicken noodle, and the flavor you get from this. Beautiful. Look, see how nice and white that is?
Absolutely nice.
And this, see this, when it gets a little bit bigger, it has a little bit more of a pleasant smell.
Oh yeah, not as musty.
And then when we clean them at home, or you could clean them in the bush. That little stem around here, you just go like this. You clean it all the way around. That's what I usually do at home when I get out home. And then you just tap it on top of the air. If there's any dirt on top, the fins, it'll all come out. So now this one's ready to stem or dry. It's good to eat.
And what's the word for them in Ukrainian?
In Ukrainian, they call them papanki.
That's how you grew up knowing them.
That's the way. Yeah, I always knew them as papanki, but they're honey mushrooms.
And again, we're looking for a fuzzy top. What about the fins? Is there anything characteristics about the fins?
When I was learning, see, nice and white. If it's black underneath, it's no good. A wise tale from some European guys I talked to, they take a garlic peeled, and when they boil it, if the garlic turns black, the mushroom is poisonous.
Okay.
My advice is, if you don't know what you're picking, don't pick it, because you could actually die from it. On the lower ground, we passed a few that they're already rotted, right? These, because they're on a hill, they keep the nice whiteness to them. Look at that.
When you're looking, I mean, obviously you know what to look for, but I mean, if someone was looking for honey mushrooms, what's the biggest thing like they would
I
be
look at the top.
Okay.
The top and the fins. See, they're nice and white underneath.
Okay, so white fins underneath.
And like,
a little bit of a
when
fuzzy
when
top.
I was learning from my dad, he would go, okay, this is this. What you look for is like that. Or they get a little darker because the rain and all that. And the frost. You can see a little darker. And then I go by the smell. And some mushrooms don't have a smell to them, or that's to me that's a perfect mushroom. That's what I'm talking about. It's wormy, so you can cut up. See now. Now, see how it turned white? I usually cut the hat here, and I open it up, and nice and white meat. So there's no bugs in there.
So you could save.
You cannot save. And a lot of people, what they do, they cut it like this. And then they boil them down. And they make gravy from it. Or Once you boil it down, you can add onions and garlic and throw it on top of your steak. Oh man, that tasty.
So just because the stem is black doesn't mean that the upper portion,
the hat will be black. See, I cut it all over the place.
And it's good.
And nice clean meat. A lot of cleaning to do here, but that's why I'll pick them like this and clean them at home. It takes a bushel, if you're by yourself, anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to do it.
And how are you cleaning them? All like scraping them, taking the
dirt out, like I showed you before. You go down the edge, underneath the hat. Like I would take this off. That's no good.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll bring it to a boil, and then I'll preserve them. You can either can them, or if you get to at the beginning of the year, the smaller mushrooms, you could freeze them in bags after you clean them. Some people jar them with the onions and red pepper or pimento. But see, white, now I got, and you can see in here, there's like, it's dark. Here it's white, here it's dark. Yeah. Worms here, not here. See how I say sometimes it gets darker? But see, it's lower ground. These should be all wormy. So you can see the worms. In here, too bad, nice looking mushrooms.
Now, how'd you got to these earlier?
Oh, they would have been all 100%.
Yeah.
You see holes, that's full of worms, good for nothing. Look at what I call the stem, what I call the meat. You know, like some people will clean them already in the bush like this. But like I pick them, I clean them at home. They'll be by stumps, they'll be by grass. And because they're on a hill, just the way I felt them, they're not damp and all that, so should be nice and clean. And look at that. Now this is at the top of the hill. We found another batch. But see, it's darker in color and feels wet, so it might be wormy. It is an older batch. See, it is wormy. You can see it coming right up the stem. The worms are inside. Some people, they figure when they pull up a whole batch like this that they won't grow back in the same spot. They always will. See them go right around a stump where you can fill just about half a bushel. And nice and clean, but that's the beginning of the season. See, unfortunate. They're all bad. And look, nice and white. Unbelievable. See, nice, beautiful. I try to pick a bushel, and that's great for me, and I usually give it to some old people that can't get out to get these wonderful mushrooms. And tasty, and they really appreciate it. It's to the honey mushroom. But now if you go underneath, it's black. And that's where people make mistakes and they get sick. Nice and clean, see? That's what people are looking for, that size there. They're happy with that. If they were tighter, they call them button heads.
I work with Bill, great guy. He's been in and around the woods forever. Ukrainian guy who's an amazing cook, and you can't believe the stuff he comes up with. And a part of his repertoire of cooking is mushrooms, and using mushrooms in gravies, sauces, putting into different things he cooks. How much do you love mushrooms, Bill?
I love them, man. Ukrainian heaven, man.
Ukrainian heaven. So we're out here east of Sudbury. We're in an old log cut area, and basically these mushrooms like to grow in low-lying areas where stumps and wood and stuff like that, right?
Up on hills too.
Right.
If you don't find them on the low part of the land, start climbing up the hills. You'll start seeing them.
And as you go up the hill, as we saw, they're a lot drier and in better shape, or they last a little bit longer, because the whole season for this mushroom stuff in northern Ontario especially, or probably maybe everywhere, is very short.
Short.
What are we looking for? First frost? After
first rain and first frost.
Right.
Then you start looking, and then you'll start seeing the button heads coming out. If you don't want the button heads, give it a day or two, and then go out and you'll get nice button heads about that size.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're all over the place.
It's October 7th today, so we're just pretty much at the tail end. Bill, you did mention though that there's possibility for like a second season some years.
I have seen in my lifetime 3 times that it came since I've been going out, a double batch. So later in October, I've gone deer hunting and picked up in November.
Right on.
So the weather was just perfect for mushrooms to start growing again, and they start growing.
Pretty wild stuff. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended. Anyways, a great time coming out here. It's a great time hanging out with Bill, finding some mushrooms. Bill is going to take the mushrooms that we found today, and Bill's going to give them to some of the older Ukrainian people that he knows that are unable to get out in the woods and get the mushrooms, but they sure love them, don't they?
They do, and I told you, Doug, I'm going to making you one of my specialty gravies. It's a mushroom soup, mushrooms, wild mushrooms, sautéed onions, garlic.
So I'm going to put the Bill's recipe for his famous gravy, mushroom gravy, in the description, so check that out as well. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and enjoy foraging for mushrooms. It's a lot of fun.
And like Ukrainians would say, smacznog, good eating.
All right, right on.